The distinction between lower self and evil is explained as evil being a splitting off of consciousness. So again, in a later point, I'll talk about some of the religious and karmic and stuff. But in terms of the splitting off of consciousness, the Pathwork presents that life, human life, is a school for learning and transformation. And that in this school, if you want to take that analogy just a little bit further, let's say we go through grades. Instead of incarnations or lifetimes, it's like we go through different classes and different experiences, moving up the evolutionary spiritual ladder so that we have more and more awareness, and we are transforming more and more of this closed off, numb, fearful attitude and becoming more enlightened, more willing, allowing our heart to open. But evil goes back to the initial split. The cosmology of the guide parallels most of the religions and philosophies, religious philosophies that humans have developed. And that is that there was some kind of initial separation from the divine. And in that separation, there's a no. Rather than an I want to explore, wouldn't this be interesting, let's all have fun together. There's a rejection of the divine that creates a split, that creates a separate type of consciousness. And this is the concept of evil that Pathwork works with. So what happens with the lower self in terms of human form is that we wind up interacting with evil, being attracted to it, allowing it in our lives, not taking care to keep it contained or away from us. Because the split of evil, the split of consciousness, actually feels like there is less pain. In that separation from the divine, we cut off our sensitivity, become more separate, more alone, and yet more numb can feel like a positive. It can feel calmer, quieter, even safer, to be separated from the divine. Because the divine really represents an ongoing transformation, purification, and awareness. And awareness, one of the ways I explain this is when your arm or your leg goes numb, you have a moment where you realize that the limb has gone numb. And then you move it. And what has happened is there has been a slight pinch in the nerve or a decrease in blood to the limb. And because of that, the nerves in the limb have gone numb. They don't have enough oxygen and food to do their process. So they've gone numb. They have, in effect, shut down. And then you make a slight movement, and the blood comes rushing back, and the nerves wake up, and you get pins and needles. And the pins and needles can feel intense. It can almost make your eyes water. It feels so ferocious and terrible. And what can you do? You can't stop it from enacting, and you can't turn it off. So we all kind of breathe deeply and wait for just a few moments for that intense sensation to subside. And then the arm or leg returns to normal. Imagine, if you would, if when we made that slight adjustment and those pins and needles started, we could shut it down again. Imagine if we said, that hurts. That's too intense. I can't bear that. I just can't stand it. I'm going to turn it off. Oh, that's much better. Your arm or leg would die. The tissues, after being cut off for X amount of time, would die, and the limb would become gangrenous. It would begin to rot. And eventually, if you didn't cut it off or have someone help you out, your whole organism would die because of this dead organ, this dead limb, that would then poison your system. And yet, when we do that on an emotional level, we do not see the consequences. There are consequences. One of the lectures that I'm going to teach later this year is 196, Commitment, Cause and Effect. And one of the things that lecture talks about is that when you separate cause and effect, when you have an effect that is so far away from the cause that you cannot see the connection between the two, you lose awareness of what's happening. In effect, you can no longer do anything about it because you don't know why something is happening. So emotionally, when you, for instance, feel lonely and afraid and you open your heart, you might have the feeling that is very, very similar to the pins and needles in your arm. You may feel overwhelmed. You may feel the intensity of your own loneliness. You may open your heart and find that your friends are delighted and they say things like, "Where have you been? What have you been doing? We've called and we've tried to contact you," it's loving and wonderful chatter, but sometimes it feels like a criticism and we suddenly feel like we've done something wrong. But the overwhelm of suddenly being open again to input from other people and to our own feelings can feel so intense and so overwhelming that we once again shut it down. Imagine, if you would, a cycle of this where we keep shutting down any level of intense feelings having to do with reenacting or resuscitating friendships. After a while, people wander away. After a while, people decide you don't want to be friends. You show no interest, you never contact them. And so the stimulus goes away, and then of course you can open up and you won't feel that kind of intensity from the outside. And because there is no outside stimulus, you may not notice your own feelings. So you open up then and you say, now I feel comfortable. Now I feel that I can open my heart. And yet you are opening your heart to a much more limited experience. So what I'm describing here is that just like the physical, we may have to learn to tolerate. We may have to learn to bear with, grit our teeth and just get through it on intense emotional experiences, just like we let our arms and our legs wake up. Because by turning away that intense experience, we do not re-enliven, we do not re-engage, and we lose awareness of our feelings and of the situation. Now, what I'm describing here is that evil, in the Pathwork understanding, evil is a separation where you have managed to cut off the interaction. And you may have been able to cut off the feelings so that you are isolated and alone. There's a chilly, cold quality to that, which has truth in it, because evil tends to want things under control and slow. And that's not real. So evil is creating an artificial environment where it can control everything and shut down outside input and shut down any internal feelings that want to come forward that it doesn't feel comfortable with. So it is this quality of separation and falseness that the Pathwork concept of evil works with. So you have the lower self, which is a creative center of trying to enact this. How do I separate? How do I shut down these feelings? How do I avoid? It's a very creative and active center. But then you have the underlying principle of evil, which is, I don't want to play. I don't want to love. I don't want to be with other people. I don't want to give up any control. I want it all for myself. But the quality of evil is very cold and deliberate, and the lower self is more of an alive, once again, creative center. So it's talking about the difference, a bit of difference between the lower self and evil.